Attention. It's time to register for Ellucian Live 2024, April 7th through 10th in San Antonio, Texas. Illuminate, innovate, inspire, explore higher education's greatest opportunities with future-ready ideas, solutions, and best practices designed to drive transformation. Register now at elive.ellucian.com. This conference is going to be epic. By now, you've heard me talk about Insights EDU in Phoenix, Arizona, February 20 through 22nd. Here's why I think you should join us at the Insights EDU conference. It's one of the few conferences focused on helping schools serve today's online and non-traditional students. If you're concerned at all about where your enrollments are going to come from in 2024 and beyond, and you should be concerned, you need to be at this conference. Register now at insightsedu.com and use promo code EdUp to save $50.
Prepare to be astonished.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we do what? You know what I'm going to say. We make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio, and a very exciting day for me. And you'll hear this a couple weeks from now. But as we record this, literally, we have released, as of this day, which I'm not going to put a date on it, our 800th episode of the EdUp Experience podcast. In fact, I might give myself an applause and Elvin Freitas too. Why is that so important? Well, we've interviewed over 250 college and university presidents across the world, from for-profit institutions, non-profit institutions, global institutions, community colleges, four-year publics, you name it. We've gotten tribal colleges and universities. We've been everywhere. We're trying to interview as many people as possible to bring in as many perspectives as possible, because you can't change higher ed by taking little bites of an elephant. We have to work together to change it. And so I bring lots of people to the microphone to tell us their story. We're 2 days or so away from our 4-year anniversary, 800 episodes. That's 200 a year on average, which is absolutely insane. It's insane to think about those numbers of conversations, and we spit those out. Shout out to Elvin Freitas, the producer of this amazing podcast, for getting them out. I can do a lot of talking, but I can't do what he does. So we have a good partnership. Speaking of bringing people on that can't do, I can't do what they do. I've brought somebody here. I literally can't do anything that he does. Once I read this list of accolades here, you'll know why. You've heard him before. I know you'll hear him again. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the one and only Chike Egu. He's a senior advisor for the Project and Workforce at Harvard University, former chief innovation officer at the Department of Labor, and vice chair of the Commission for the Maryland Department of Education. The applause is just not long enough. Chike, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me on the show. And Elvin, congratulations, not just on the milestone, but also the space that you've created for these really important conversations that we just don't have enough of. So just congrats on the big thing, and congrats on kind of what you do every day.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And we're going to be lobbying you, Chike, for maybe a special project down the line. We'll just a little teaser. But I want to get to our guest today, because she is leading one heck of a large institution, really delivering, I believe, on the promise of what higher education means for so many people. And she'll tell you how many. Ladies and gentlemen, we're excited to talk to her today, me in particular. She is Dr. Frances Villagran-Glover. She's the president of Houston Community College Southeast. Frances, welcome to the mic.
Welcome, Joe, and welcome, Chike. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited about the conversation.
So before we get into it, we have a mutual contact. Her name is, and I'll give her a shout out. Her name is Dr. Michelle Cantu-Wilson, Michelle and I go way back. And in fact, she was one of my first fill-in hosts. When Elvin and I started hitting our stride, and I said, who could fill in for me when I get sick or I can't do it? And Michelle was like our go-to. And I know that you were just texting her, and I was just texting her. Shout out to Michelle. How do you know her? How did you become intersected with Michelle?
Oh my goodness. I think I met her, Michelle, a couple of years ago at a Tache conference, Latino conference. And then we just bonded. When you meet somebody, you have just those same values, the same passion for what we do in the front line, like you said. We just continued our relationship, and she's a phenomenal, leader in higher ed right now. She just, got elected to be a trustee at St. Jack College. and she's doing amazing work in the space that needs our voices and needs our students' voices and our students' needs just raised up.
Yeah, you know, she's very passionate about female Latina leadership in higher education. In fact, she, along with another person, Linda Battles, another Latina in higher education who works for Western Governors University, they got together and did an episode about leading as a female Latina in higher education. And how important is it to you as a Latina in higher ed at the highest level of leadership with tens of thousands of students to be blazing a trail for the future of higher ed leadership? What's that responsibility like outside of the norm?
Right. And we all, right, Chika, we stand on the shoulders of many, many people, right, in the work. And I know as a first generation student myself, you know, my dad had a 6th grade education, my mom had 8th education, and we just talked about the student experience. And my student experience several years ago as an undergraduate wasn't very, I wouldn't say very welcoming, right? So the heart of my passion and my corazón, you know, when I wake up every morning, is to ensure that every one of my students at my college feels that welcoming, caring environment, and that it's okay to ask for support, right? Because we're all here to be successful. No longer are the days do we say, look to your left, look to your right. One of you doesn't belong here. And I'm sure all three of us have experienced that, right? And so I want to ensure that through the work of many higher ed leaders, to include you guys, is to make sure that we provide all the resources necessary for our students to be successful, either inside the classroom or outside the classroom. So every day when I wake up, I look through the lens of first generation student and say, okay, what would this student feel like, right? And you know,
that's a unique lens. It's an important lens.
Yes.
So lay the groundwork for us. Houston Community College, Southeast. How big? How small? What do you do? How do you do it?
It's not a tiny institution. It's a fairly large, one of the largest in the country. We're a multi-college district, Houston Community College District, and we're composed of 6 colleges and with an online component as well. And we're growing. And I'm very proud to say that our enrollment post-pandemic, it's just rising up. And it's through those intentionalities that I just talked about. You know, we're part of the Caring Initiative, the Caring Campus program. Our QEP, our SACS accreditation, is about personalized learning to ensure that we meet the students where they are, right? And we're being really intentional about our targeted strategies around the whole lifespan of the student. You know, when the student walks in, they're part now of the ATC family. And so our work, you know, with in my role in student services, my role as president, is to connect all the dots to ensure that that continuum of the experience surpasses even when they graduate, right? That those connections that we make with workforce, I'm looking at Chika since he's in it workforce, right? Those connections with those workforce partnerships are not only existing within the student experience while they're here at HCC, but extend it out there and then prepare them for those, you know, top of mind for me right now is those jobs that don't exist yet that we need to prepare our students for. Right.
Amazing.
Yeah, you have a little tagline behind you, real world education. And I know Chika is going to ask you lots of questions, but before I give the mic to him, I want to ask just one quick follow-up. And I realized I didn't get the second part of your title. I left it off, but I want to talk about it intentionally now. You're also the interim vice chancellor for student services. And so when you say those two things together, the president of Houston Community College and the interim vice president for student services, one, are you insane? 2, how the heck are you doing that? And 3, why? What's the tell me the story there?
Well, I think if anybody can handle having 7 children, right, they can handle 2 jobs. So I'm a mother of 7 children, all but one attended a community college, and that's a long story about the other one who was brainwashed by her high school counselor not to go to community college, but that's another story. I've since disowned her. I'm just kidding.
Story for another podcast.
But I think it comes from, you know, when you ask me the why, do I get sleep? Who needs sleep? But I'm just kidding. I do get sleep, but it's the passion, right? I know that the work that I can do in conjunction, collaboration with the team, it's just not me. It's the whole team that's involved, and having an advocate like many of us who've experienced either good or bad experiences, you know, the best practices from, you know, learn from what you didn't have or learn what you did have. And so we have some great talent at HCC, and, my job is just, bring people together, right? And to ensure that we lean in, that we don't give up, just like we tell our students don't give up. And so a lot of the credit goes to the team here at HCC. It's not me. I'm just very fortunate and honored to have those titles, to be able to lay the groundwork and provide that advocacy and resources we need to be successful.
Double duty. Somebody that knows a little bit about that. My co-host, Chike Egu. You like that? You like that?
So there's so many places to start. I am a big community college fan. You all sit at this intersection of the higher education and the economy. Most people don't know the majority of American undergraduates go to a community college. It is not a small part of it. You cannot talk about higher education without talking about community colleges.
Right.
And so there are so many questions, but I'll start from one that's top of mind for me. I was at the Department of Labor for 2.5 years, worked a lot in the future of workforce development. I spent a lot of my time with large corporate entities who are trying to figure out how to fill their jobs. We hear a lot from corporations about what they want from higher education. I would love to hear from you the opposite. Tell me what you want from your business entities. Look, in the end, a lot of people who are going to go to a community college are doing it to improve their economic quality of life for them and for their family. So I like to think, same goals,
Yeah.
But we see so often a disconnect. Yeah, I see so many community colleges who just like, oh, we just can't get this partnership right. I talk to so many businesses like, we just can't get this partnership right. So I hear from the community, from the businesses what they want, but we'd love to hear, as you try and embark on these types of partnerships to, frankly, get students jobs, and not just jobs, but that's the beginning of a career.
Right.
What do you want from your businesses? Because I think we don't talk enough about that.
That's a great question, Chika. And I know I'm very fortunate to have partnerships with like Amazon, Apple, Intel lately that have been really at the forefront of providing those opportunities for students. And I'll just use our tagline, real world education. So if you ask me what I want from businesses, it's really providing those real life experiences and bringing in students either as an intern. And, you work in the Department of Labor, about the growth of our apprenticeship program. And we're very proud at HCC just to be one of the first of many to build a hub for apprenticeships. But it's really on, providing that hand-in-hand partnerships with our business industry and talking to students about what the job opportunity looks like, whether it be a future job, down the road, or whether it be expectations. We have our chancellor, Dr. Margaret Ford Fisher. She just newly appointed, by the way. She's established the Chancellor's Business Advisory Council. And we have, across the Houston region, 25 CEOs from various employment platforms and venues. And the pattern that we're hearing is really the soft skills, right, of what the expectations are. So, asking those business partners is exactly what are you looking for in your manufacturing business, in your logistics or the medical field. But, the soft skills, you can't learn in a book, right?
Tell them like it is.
So I think, having those opportunities for our students, whether it be 1 day, 2 day, visiting these corporations and companies to see what manufacturing looks like right now. And I'll give that example, right? Because, that's one of my centers of excellence, is that the manufacturing field, which is a very high demand, very high paying field too. And most of our students, prospective students, especially in the high schools, thinks that's a dirty job, right? I'm going to get my hands dirty. Well, if you go to some manufacturing plants now, they're most of the cleanest as clean as a hospital. Right.
Surprise.
And so really, really engaging those students and our business partners hand in hand together to really talk about what that workforce looks like, whether it be the workforce expectations or whether it be what the skills and capabilities are for both sides of the house.
I mean, the analogy, let me plot a couple of things that you said. One, that making sure that employers are giving students those real world experiences and hopefully using those to help actually judge if they're fit for the job, number one. Number two, actually letting students understand what the job is so they can better make their choices.
Right.
The analogy that I use with the real world side is sports. For any of you who play sports, you don't read a book about how to do a jump shot. You don't
Right.
read a book about how to do a whip route.
That's right.
Someone shows you, you do it. You usually do it wrong the first time. Then
Mhm.
someone watches you better. They coach you, and you do it again. You do it again. You do it again until you get better. And most jobs are like that.
Yeah.
And if we think about the people who are most privileged in America, they get that.
Right.
They get that chance. And the question is, how do we take what, frankly, only a few people get and ubiquitize that to everyone?
Yeah.
But let me ask you about the career exploration side and the
Mhm.
pathing side. I remember 10 years ago when we were talking about guided pathways in
Right.
community colleges, which is basically just don't just let a student just try and figure it out by themselves. Give them at least a path to begin to start. Tied to that is guidance. If you're gonna have a guided pathway, you need a guide.
Mhm.
Um, I have probably visited almost 100 community colleges in 30 states.
Mhm.
The best counselor to student ratio that I ever saw was 1 to 400.
Are
Mhm.
you kidding me?
And I saw a lot of institutions where it was 1 to 700, 1
Yep.
to 800. There was one where it was like a 1 to like 1100 students.
Yep. This is impossible.
And so I'm curious how you all approach this. You are a large community college and probably the fastest growing metro in the country. How do you guide students once they're coming in? And by the way, you aren't just dealing with folks who, my 8 grandparents went to college. These are maybe folks who truly are first generation or who've come from a rough circumstance
Right.
or just without a lot of social capital. So you're taking the people who, frankly, are coming in with the least amount of advantage
That's right.
and asking them to do it at times a very hard thing. So talk about how you try and guide students as they come in
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
what you're trying to do.
Right. So I would, last year talk to you about, oh, we do a career assessment. Oh, we assign students an advisor or all those things that seem kind of common sense to do or kind of some of the best practices. But I want to talk about a partnership that recently that we developed that I think is going to be a game changer when it comes to really empowering students to be involved in the career of choice and preparing them for the workforce. And as a partnership we have with AmeriCorps and Campus Compact, which I'm sure the two of you are very familiar with. And all credit goes to Eric Lugo, who is now the director of what we call the CR Corps, the College Resonant Renaissance Corps, right? We call it CR Corps for short. And it's been 2 years in the making. And, ACC is one of the fortunate colleges to take part in this. And they're looking at 6 other community colleges to scale it eventually across the years, across the college. But basically, let me tell you, it's, students, we can talk to students about the careers, right? And they may listen, they may not, right? But who's the best source to really influence our students? That's their peers, right? So through this partnership, again, it's called CR Core, College Renaissance Core. It's like, AmeriCorps, we know about AmeriCorps and the great thing AmeriCorps does. We also know about Campus Compact. So Eric Lugo has combined those two with his team. And so now what we have are industry ambassadors. So we have students telling students about manufacturing, about logistics, about IT. And it goes beyond just saying, hey, I'm in the program. It's really more about saying, hey, I graduated, this is the job I have. Of course, they talk about that, but really them infusing them in those industry partnerships and then leveraging things like social media, right? They become leaders. So not only are we developing ambassadors, but we're developing future leaders in those workforce programs. And we're giving them skills like social media skills, all those digital marketing skills that each and every one of us should have, whatever occupation we're in, right? I could go into AI, but that's another big story, right? That how AI is going to affect us. But we're really excited about this partnership because we really think it's going to enhance all of our strategies towards career awareness, recruitment, placement, that career continuum to ensure that students get into a career that, one, they're passionate about. I think that's number one, right? Money should always hopefully be secondary, but that they're passionate about and that economic mobility, like you said, Chica, because my community at Southeast is underserved. Many of them live in poverty, or that Alice that borderline of Alice and poverty lines. And mainly of them are majority of them are first generation students.
Go ahead,
Keep
Joe.
going. No, Chike, I see the wheels turning inside.
Yeah, no, I just say what I like about this is I'm putting on my kind of private sector hat. If I go back to those ratios, what this initiative does is it expands the amount of people who can give guidance to a student.
Yes.
That's what I hear.
Yep.
So instead of I have to hire more counselors, which is always great to do, and
Right.
we could do it more. It's also I have these other people who are in the student's orbit, whether they be alum, whether they be people that who are peers who can also provide that guidance. I'm going to go down the rabbit hole of technology, and so before I do
yes.
so before I do that, Joe, if you have a question that you have, because you said AI, and I have a number of thoughts.
Me too.
Love to hear your thoughts on.
Did you say technology?
Do I look like I know what a JPEG is?
No, go ahead.
So when President Biden released an executive order on artificial intelligence late last year, I'll say during my time in government, this was a constant topic of conversation.
That's why it got done. Because you were in government.
No, definitely not. There was a
but
NOSA got done after I left. So
I'm already campaigning for you.
So probably I was a block. But a lot of the conversation about AI, and properly so, is about mitigating the harm. They are definitely left to itself, left to people with ill intention, bad things that can happen. I would love to hear how you think about, I call it the other side, which is I always used to say, how do you mitigate the peril and capture the promise?
Right.
And there will be people who capture the promise to the tune of trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
But I would love to think about, one, how you think about preparing students for a world where generative AI is a part of every job, every company, every sector. And then secondly, how do you think about using AI and throw in any other technology you want in how HCC does business?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm loving this, Chike. This is the best question of the day, because
here we go.
So AI, right? And you talked about the bad part. What's that movie that was just out on Netflix, When the World Ends, or
oh yeah, my wife saw it. Yeah,
the Tesla
I
stopped.
couldn't watch it. I couldn't watch it.
You gotta watch it.
Oh,
You
yeah,
gotta
I saw
watch
that
it.
too.
You gotta watch it. You
That
gotta
was
watch
with
it
Julia
tonight.
Roberts, wasn't it? It was was it a movie? Yeah, it was a good movie.
It's gonna bug me, but you gotta watch it.
You'll
But
think
but on the other side, right? Instead of worrying about what's wrong or how to stop it, because we're not gonna stop AI. No one's gonna. It's here, and it's here to stay. And the scary or not so scary part, it's here to stay and grow. Right? We all know about machine learning and start developing. And if you haven't looked into the AI tools, they really get to know you. I mean, I'm doing one that has helped me. And I'll go back. So to answer your question, Chike, is how do we embrace it, right? And how we engage our students in the AI availability, AI tools that are available, right? We hear faculty say, "Oh, they're going to cheat." Well, how long have students been cheating? Forever, right? And for me, this is my professional opinion and personal opinion. Being a mom myself and telling my kids about the AI tools available, is that it allows more room for us to be critical thinkers, strategic thinkers, right? Again, using AI, a tool like anything else. We had a keynote speaker, and I want to give her credit. She is from Tennessee State University. Her first name is Robbie, and I'll get her last name. But she used an analogy of a recipe, right? And she is well known in the AI field, right? And she used the analogy of a recipe, right? A chicken soup, right? You have the recipe, but you still got to make it, and you still got to taste it, right? So we encourage our students to use AI tools to develop a concept paper. That's not the whole project, but it gives a template and a way of a foundation of the starting point, right?
That is correct.
And just like anything else of plagiarism, right? You got to use originality, and you got to cite the AI source just like anything else. One of my favorite AI tools right now is Poe.com, POE.com. And unlike ChatGPT, it grows with you. It starts knowing Francis, and not just a basic. So, and there's just phenomenal AI tools that are growing. And I do want to give a shout out to my colleagues at HCC, Dr. Madeline Barillo, who's our president of Southwest. She oversees our IT program, and HCC is the first community college in the country to offer AI as a bachelor's program. And so we just launched that out this past fall, and we have students on the waiting list. And one of the great things about AI is that, if students are interested in studying AI, they don't need a computer science background, right? It's kind of like coding. And so encouraging everybody of every age to understand what AI can do for us, rather than, how AI is going to take over the world, like that movie kind of insinuated AI would do. And it could, if we don't take control of it. And as educators, I think, my responsibility, whether call it social, professional responsibility, is to really understand the impact of AI in my personal world as well as my professional world. But back to, and I'm going to be transparent here, we have a long way to go in the student experience with AI, right? Because, you made me think of when you asked that question, Chike, about advisors, right? Many of our students, to include underserved students, to include first generation students, they use AI already in their personal, look at Netflix, right? Look at the algorithms that they're able to pick you up. Chicken, now I see you watching these horror movies. Let me give you another one. And I think that's the way what we need to leverage AI in the student experience, is to help empower the student to guide their own. We're here to hold their hand when we can, but we're not going to be with them all the time at 2:00 in the morning or at midnight when they want that information on the website or a platform. Using AI to really empower students to take control of what they want and the information that they need to gain can be better served sometimes using AI.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not. For a third straight year, the EdUp Experience will be recording live at Illusion Live 2024 this year in San Antonio, Texas, April 7th through the 10th. Illuminate, innovate, and inspire. That's the framework for the conference. Leaders from institutions around the world will converge at Illusion Live 2024 to discover game-changing technology, share industry insights, and build powerful connections. It's time to explore higher education's greatest opportunities with future-ready ideas, solutions, and best practices designed to drive transformation. You can register now at elive.illusion.com.
Epic. Oh, yeah.
You've heard me talk about the Insights EDU conference. Well, let me tell you 3 reasons why I think everyone listening should join us in Phoenix, Arizona on February 20 through 22nd for Insights EDU. 1, it's one of the few conferences focused on helping schools serve today's online and non-traditional students. 2, you can expect a mix of speakers you won't hear anywhere else, including higher ed leaders from Google, LinkedIn, Adobe, and more. And reason 3, Insights EDU has an agenda packed with sessions discussing the latest trends in higher ed leadership, marketing, and enrollment management. Register now at insightsedu.com and use promo code EdUp to save $50 off your registration.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, your co-pilot just sent me a message and it wants to tell you something about your use of it.
Don't fail me again.
So I don't know what that means.
I like that.
I think what the analogy that I think about, just use a medical analogy, and I heard this from a head of student services years ago at a community college, was ideally you want to be like a hospital doing triage.
Yes.
And people come in with different issues. There are some people who actually, hey, look, I can give you some Sudafed and send you out the door. Some people, shoot, you need to be admitted.
Yeah.
And when we think about students coming in from various issues, there are some students who probably don't need to see a counselor.
Right.
Right. And so on and so forth. And there's some students who you should not let them leave
until
they've spoken to someone, and figuring out who's who and how you let folks do that is kind of it's kind of the dream for how we use some of this technology. And then similarly as well, how do you prepare students to use this? I always think about, and I may have mentioned this on our last conversation, Joe, there's a great story about, it was in maybe Fortune or Wired magazine. There was a guy, he was a computer programmer. He had one job. He made $100,000.
Yeah.
Then when ChatGPT came out and tools like it, Bard, Inflection AI's tool, I forget what they call it, it's their tool. His productivity skyrocketed, and so what he was, and this is during the pandemic. He was able to have 3 jobs, and no one knew he had
Ah,
2 other jobs. And so he went from like $100,000, and I remember this number very specifically. It's like $348,000 having 3 different jobs because he was so much more productive
Yeah.
that literally he get the same amount done in 8 hours on
Wow.
3 jobs they got done on one. And it's funny during the story he feels kind of bad. He's like, should I tell them that I have 2 other jobs? And he decided not to for a long period of time. He said I basically get it done. But the analogy that I use with a lot of these tools is, none of us on this call would hire someone who couldn't use Google search.
Right.
It's that elementary a
Right.
tool.
Right. Yeah.
I have argued that in 18 months, uh, all these AI powered tools will be like that.
Yeah.
By the way, if you use Microsoft Office, you will begin to have co-pilots in all of
Yes, they do
uh,
now. Yeah. Right.
as you do now. If you can't utilize those, again, you're not workplace ready, and we fail
Yeah.
students if we don't prepare them for that.
Mhm.
Let me ask about your population. So I know a little bit about the Houston area just because my wife is a
Yeah.
native. But talk to me about Greater Houston and talk to me about, in many ways, lots of opportunities,
Mhm.
but also in many ways some challenges. And then also put on top of it, if I remember it correctly, you all are the most diverse metro area in the country.
Yeah.
You also are, if not the fastest growing, probably in the top 5. So
Yep.
talk about that, the macro environment that you all find yourselves in and how you as HCC try and respond.
Right. So, yeah, big. All I can say is big, right? Do big. Texas does things big. But it,
go big or go home.
that's right. So, that's good. That's good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So the good part is, we're diverse, right? One of the most diverse cities in the country, if not national, if not across the global world, right? And then, just we have segmented populations, right? That are very fortunate, and then some not so fortunate, right? And then that's my passion. That's where my passion is at, and that's where Southeast College is located, right? 60% of my community doesn't have a GED or high school degree. So I think about the jobs that are currently out there in high demand that would help them with economic mobility. I think about the jobs like how AI is incorporated and how we can educate and make them aware of some of the skills that would help them get promoted or upskilled. And so one of the things that we've been focusing on is really our adult population that we've kind of like not forgotten, but I think there's been some missed opportunities. Community college always, work with our high school districts, but there is a great opportunity to work with the parents of those same students and go beyond that ecosystem. And so, we're very fortunate to have partnership like it with industry, with our workforce commission, with the city. We have a new mayor, Mayor Whitmire, who was just elected this past November. So, really working with those fast track programs. Very familiar, both of y'all familiar with House Bill 8. Community colleges in Texas have a new performance funding model. We no longer get funded by the number of seats in the class. We get funded by outcomes, which we should always have been performing, but it's now in the spotlight, right?
Don't like it is.
So really focusing on those credentials of value, whether it be continuing education or credit programs. And we just had a conversation yesterday about, all the lingos that we use that our community members don't even know the difference between. They want a job or they want to fulfill a dream. And so how do we talk to students, create that one door? Let's stop creating these 10 different doors. Oh, wait a minute, you're a international student. No, go through this door. Oh no, you're a veteran, go through this door. Or no, if a student is a student, right? With the same goal of having what we can call a better life. Right. And so, our focus really on creating those stackable pathways. I'll use some academic lingo, right? Credentials of value, the stackable credentials. So they can see that there's those small achievement steps to a whole wider goal. And one of the things that we're really proud of, especially for our first generation cohort, is in engineering. right? We start them small so that if their goal is to really be an astronaut, really work for NASA, which is down the street from here, well, these are the pathways. These are some kind of classes or programs you can take, and we'll help you along the way. And then if you need a stop for any reason, we're still here when you come back. Because many of our students, as we know, have to take care of their families or may have to take a semester out to attend to either their job or their family demands.
I'm going to take a quick left turn real fast because I want to get this in, Chike, and then you can take back over. What is the A team? What's the A team?
Where did you see that?
I've got it on your bio. There's an A team.
So all my kids, 7 kids, are A names with 6 letters. Andrew, Ashley, Amanda, Austin, Alyssa, Adrian, Aliana. Whew. Don't ask me their ages.
Well done. We would have cut that out if you missed one, by the way.
Okay.
But you did good.
You did.
And then you have what I thought about when I read your bios. Right at the end, you have a motto, which is
find a way or make
one.
Yeah.
And I thought from when we started talking about leadership, and I read that motto, I said, okay, what does that mean, and how do you execute that in higher ed, which comes with bureaucracies and red tape and political environments, and it's not always easy to find a way. So sometimes you do have to make one. How do you live that?
Right. Constantly leaning in, constantly being creative without breaking the law. I don't look good in orange. Orange is a new black, does not look good on me. And I think a lot of times, we worked in places where people say, well, we've always done it that way. But sometimes
7 worst words in business.
Yeah. And honestly, that way, how's it working for us right now? Right. And I think answering those powerful questions and not being scared to ask those questions, because if you come in the room with a passion and the right goal of students in the center, and you have your team who are empowered to come up with those ideas, we find a way, and then we make one. We just get the crud, just move it out of the way, and towards our end goal of student success.
Chike, I bet you're familiar with that, right? Chief Innovation Officer for the Department of Labor probably had some people that said, well, we've done it that way. We've always done it that way.
I may have heard that once or twice. And what I also always found was there were always people who were always trying to innovate, but they never had someone in the right position to make the way for them. And I always say this: when I was in the Department of Labor, my best days were not about my own ideas. In fact, those were usually my worst days. It was always about, there was some person who would have been in the department 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And they would say, oh yeah, like back in 1995, I tried to do this, but they wouldn't let me. Then they would say that, I was like, well, I was like, say it again. And they would say the idea, and I'd be like, oh, we should do that. And those were my best days when I said, okay. And I cleared stuff out of the bureaucratic way to make that happen. Those were my best days. Right. And I think what you've talked about, kind of finding a way to make a way, in many ways, like that's what community college is for a lot of people. Like, hey, I'm trying to go here, and because I've heard of this place, it's down the street, I know people who went there. That is my kind of nearest tool to try and make that way. And I love your phrase, a dream or a job.
Yep.
That's what brings a lot of people through your doors. Look forward for me, for HCC, and even go a little bigger, because you all are a premier community college. I was just talking to a bunch of folks from Miami-Dade College recently, which is another kind of powerhouse. What do you want for community college in the next 10, 20, 30 years as a sector? What do you want from community college? What do you want it to be? What do you want it to be doing?
I want it to be how do I want to say this? I want it to be the natural course of an individual's dream or economic mobility pathway, right? Whether they're, we talked a lot about first generation students, but let's talk about students who have that support system, right? Who have parents who've gone to college and know how to navigate that FAFSA college application and, the essays. But just talk common sense about the financial sense of attending a community college and getting real world education in community college. We can talk about the money saved. Our engineering program, we have a partnership with A&M and UT Tyler. Our students can get an engineering degree degree, not associates, but a degree, bachelor's degree in engineering for $17,000.
Victory!
So, let's talk about, and that's why all my kids, except one, have gone to community college, it's just the financial common sense around the cost savings and to save the money for a four university when they transfer. And then the other piece is, just the workforce experience that a community college look now, and like you said, 10 years, 20 years from now, is that close relationships we have with partners, with apprenticeships, internships. So though the students are really actively engaged in the workforce while they're a college student, and they don't have to wait till their junior or senior year. And then, building that community of empowerment, so that a community college is not, we call it Houston's community college. We call Houston Community College Houston's community college, because we are a partner not only in education, but also the workforce development and the community engagement, right? We offer so much more than education and associate's degree. We are really a close-knit partner with our community-based organizations, because each of our community members not only is that education, but they need the resources to sustain a livelihood with their family.
Do you, just to build on that real fast, because the affordability piece, this is so it's like everything right
Yeah.
now. And one of the most common pathways when we talk about higher education, particularly for detractors of higher ed, is that it's just unbearably expensive. There's just no way anyone can afford it. Higher education is too expensive. It's really easy to generalize because, if you study community colleges today, and there are some amazing community colleges where that's not true. You're not going to have insurmountable debt. You're going to have a cost-effective pathway to get a degree, whether it's associate or bachelor's, through partnership with a institution that is accredited by the same institution down the road that might cost you a lot of money, where academic quality is under the same umbrella of standards for our regional what used to be regional accreditors. Do you ever feel left out of that conversation? Do you feel like there's like a hand raising that has to happen for community colleges to stand up and say, well, that's not the case. Higher ed isn't too expensive if you look at this.
Yeah. I think we're doing a better job of raising our hands and being more vocal collectively. When you mentioned about the academic preparations, if you ask many large universities, they'll say that community college students are more prepared than the students who started out at university.
Yeah, because they finished it. Because they finished it.
Yeah, they finished it, right? So, I think there's more opportunity for us to be more vocal in the ability of starting at a community college. And I think that's where our workforce partners can play a bigger role as well. Back to Chike's question about what do you want workforce, is to be our ambassadors, to tell our communities how valuable community colleges are for not only their livelihood, but also, the students, because we can yell and scream and do everything with our school districts, our community members, how community college are the best course, pathway, but our workforce partners play a critical role. We have advisory groups who do that. I do want to mention also, and there's many other great community colleges out there. You look at the dual credit, there's many of our students who graduate with an associate's and a high school degree and zero debt, right? And then they continue on to community colleges, right, to finish whatever else they need to finish. And then they go to 4-year, and then, just the sensibility of all that.
Let me Joe makes a really important point, which is we overgeneralize about higher education. Talking about higher education is like talking about schools. We have 100,000 schools in America. I started my career as a K-12 teacher, so we know how different they can be. The same thing with colleges. One thing I see, and we see this in the state of Maryland, we see it around the country, the handoff between the 2-year system and the 4-year system is nowhere near as seamless as it needs to be.
Right.
When we think about transfer, when we think about articulation, when we think about all these things, I don't know a state in America who's like, oh yeah, we've got it. Or I don't know a student in America who's like, oh, that was super easy.
super seamless, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen it, and it's a challenge because the only way you get to that affordability is that's got to be seamless. And you know, you are the vice chancellor, the interim vice chancellor of student services. That is a critical part of the experience. For many students, it is. I'm going to this school for 2 years. I'm going to get my associates. I'm going to articulate if you were in Maryland, I'm going to go to Prince George's Community College, articulate to College Park at University of Maryland, and get my degree.
Yeah.
That is far harder said than done than what I just said.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious about how can we make that partnership better? Because it just needs to be if we're going to achieve a bunch of things that you just said.
So allow me to give another shout out to my former institution, Northern Virginia Community College, where I worked for 11 years. When we talk about the seamless experience of transfer, Northern Virginia Community College and George Mason University.
Mm-hmm.
Now you talk about a model program for transfer. It's a cold enrolled program called Advance, right? And it started out to serve with intentionality to serve underserved students, first generation students who want to transfer to a four-year university, but just didn't know how to navigate. And so those students are co-enrolled. Not only do they attend, NOVA, they also have those same resources available to them at George Mason University. And that I see as a model for many other community colleges, including HCC, to do. The Aspen Institute also published a transfer playbook, which we often utilize here at HCC. But you're right, Chika. We need to do a better job of having that handoff be a little bit just connected together, so that there is no stop out students. Because many of the times students just stop out. They say, I just couldn't figure it out, right? Couldn't figure it out. And those articulation agreements being so critical with those four universities. Houston's very fortunate to have many private and public universities, which we do have close relationships with, but it's really the interconnecting, that student experience. Going back to Joe's title. What's your title? I love your title.
Chief Experience Officer.
Right? Having that experience a little more interconnected, so there's no gaps within that handoff.
And one of the things we didn't touch on is prior learning assessment or
Oh,
credit for
yeah.
prior learning.
Right.
Because I'll tell you this right now, if I get one-on-one training with the former chief innovation officer from the U.S. Department of Labor, right? And it's intense on innovation in a bureaucratic environment, I feel like I should get credit for that.
Just call me up. I make home visits.
So I'll come to your home, but I want credit. I got it. I want credit for that. And that's more official than my cousin Vinny, who gives, I always say my cousin Vinny gives real estate courses. That's something we got to get right around. True. And community colleges are dealing with that all the time.
That's right. Especially for our veterans who have a huge amount of experience that they should get credit for. We owe it to them.
Well, Francis, we could talk all day. I know we could, because this has been fun. This has
I have two new best friends.
Yes, we are. And I got to ask you, I'm going to give you the mic for the last couple of minutes. Say anything else you want to say about Houston Community College and your roles,
yes.
HCC.
Right. Well, I just, want to say is I just want to thank both of you, Chika and Joe, for the conversation. And you got, not only was it a thoughtful discussion around, what's going on, what's happening and the trends, what our future is going to look like. It also gave me some ideas to go back to my teams about what we need to do as well. Very honored to work with Houston Community College. I think, this is, a new day, for the state of Texas in so many ways. The performance funding model is not scary, is actually something that should be on top of mind all the time as far as student outcomes. We have a long way to go with student outcomes, and we're really committed to ensuring that now that we're being funded by it, that we were really intentional, and we lean in on some of the work that we perhaps have put to the side, said, well, maybe for another day. Well, this is a day to do it. And, really encouraging our community members, our workforce partners to be part of that. And, we're very fortunate to have those relationships. And then partnering as well with our national, our peers across the country is really important. And the opportunities we have collectively to raise the voices and be the voices for our students who need us the most, right? And really leveraging on those student experiences. A lot of times, people say, well, it's the student's responsibility, but it's also our social responsibility to ensure that they're successful. We do anything in our power to make sure they're successful and empower them. But I want to thank you again. It was a great conversation. I hope we continue our relationship somewhere on LinkedIn or a conference, or maybe, you know, when Chike is president of the United States, Joe, you and I can, you know, play a little part and
don't forget your friends, Chike. All right. So, Chike, what'd you think of this conversation?
This was great, honestly, and I was really excited for this because I think you and your counterparts across the country are doing the work every single day. And I think, you know, that last thing you said about it's the student's responsibility. I'll use a quote that someone gave me, which is it is the responsibility of every individual to make the right choices. It is the responsibility of society to make those right choices as easy as possible.
Right.
And I think when I think about what you do at a community college is you're part of making those right choices as easy as possible. And so I just thank you for what you do. And Joe, as always, thank you for creating this really, I think, important and almost sacred space.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Ladies and gentlemen, he's Chike Egu. He's got a lot of titles. You can follow him on LinkedIn. I'm not going to give all those titles again, but he's doing a lot of things in higher ed. And I have a feeling beyond by the time he's done. Chike, as always, it's an honor to have you on, and we'll be talking about that special project together as we connect in the next week or so. And of course, our guest of honor. I do feel like you're my new best friend, and I'm going to have to call Michelle Acantu-Wilson and tell her, I'm like, Francis is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here she is, Dr. Frances Villagran-Glover, President of Houston Community College Southeast, and Interim Vice Chancellor of Student Services. Did you have a good time today talking about all this?
We did. Thank you so much.
Well, we enjoyed you. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what you have done. You've just EdUp'd.
Attention.
It's time to register for Ellucian Live 2024, April 7th through 10th in San Antonio, Texas. Illuminate, innovate, inspire, explore higher education's greatest opportunities with future-ready ideas, solutions, and best practices designed to drive transformation. Register now at elive.ellucian.com. This conference is going to be epic. Hey there, higher ed leaders. Are you thinking about joining the EdUp Experience podcast at Insights EDU on February 20th through 22nd in Phoenix, Arizona?
100%.
I thought so. This is the go-to event for higher education marketing and enrollment management. At Insights EDU, you'll gain cutting-edge insights from industry experts, including speakers from companies like Google, LinkedIn, Adobe, Salesforce, and more. Become the transformational leader your campus needs by participating in discussions on important topics like online student demands and preferences, increasing affordability and accessibility, branding, measuring marketing performance, and much more. Insights EDU is the conference you need to attend in 2024. Register now at insightsedu.com and use the code EdUp to save $50 off your registration.